Be honest, disagreement can light up our nervous system fast. Maybe your chest tightens, your thoughts start racing, and you just want to prove your point. You just want to be understood. But if we can learn to stay open minded instead of defensive, we open the door to better understanding, stronger relationships, and way less stress. So today, we are going to share a story and walk through our communication system, as well as sharing some practical tips to help you stay open minded when things get tense.
RALOE 192 said, I am a working mom of three, so this podcast offers tips and I can use on my day to day. Thank you, RALOE 192. We appreciate your feedback and your review. So thank you so much.
Welcome to Communication Skills for Working Women. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Rose May. Do you find yourself second guessing or avoiding conversations because you're worried about being misunderstood?
You're not alone. On this show, we're sharing tangible tools for assertiveness, emotional resilience, and real-life communication wins and fails.
Let's sharpen our communication together. I'm going to get into a story about a time that this was actually a very heated argument that I had. And it's going to sound maybe you'll hear it and you'll be like, okay, really? That got heated. But I think it comes from a place of value. So let me get into the story. So a couple of us were in a meeting, a couple of colleagues, probably at the time there were 6 of us, maybe. We're in a meeting, maybe seven, yeah. And we were talking about, I don't know how this came up. It might have been that we were processing some cases or just speaking to each other about these cases and what we could do to kind of push them along and to help our clients. And we started having this discussion about whether it's appropriate to share personal experiences with clients to normalize their struggles. And really, there are like 2 camps on this. And of course, they're polar opposites, right? Some people see like self-disclosure as a therapist as powerful and again, normalizing. And I'll get into some more things. And others fear that it shifts the focus away from the client or blurs the boundaries, right? So this is, again, there are just people tend to be in one of 2 camps. And so I'm in this meeting and we're talking about a specific client, and I am on the side of it's okay to self-disclose. And the reason that for a couple reasons. One, I think about my practice or myself as a practitioner coming from a multicultural framework. If you don't establish that rapport by self-disclosing, you're going to lose your clients. There are many cultures that before they're going to trust this therapist, they want to know what's going on. What are you thinking? How do you think? How do you handle situations? Like, tell me about you. There is this I guess kind of like this doorway that we kind of have to go through in order to establish that rapport. And for other people, they're not so hot on self-disclosing. They don't want to share any of that information. I've had some colleagues who the first like 4 or 5 sessions is just spent on a client asking the therapist about themselves because they want to get to know, they want to know that they can trust you, right? And the only way to know that they can trust you is by X, Y, and Z. And so it became a very, very heated discussion. And I'm telling you that I believe 100% that I was right. It's it's 100% important to be able to know when to disclose so that you can establish relationships with your clients. And so there was a lot of back and forth. We shouldn't be doing this. You're making the sessions all about you. And then, well, how are your clients are going to get to know you or trust you, especially your brown clients? They're not going to open up to you if they don't feel like you can trust you. And you should probably just take this approach with everyone. So there was a lot of back and forth about what this should look like in a therapy session. And it got very, very heated. And I think it kind of bled into some other areas that were a little bit more blurred, and that probably revolved around some systemic issues. So it just got really, it was just a situation that it was not pretty.
In a work environment, you were having this conversation where you really felt like you were correct.
Oh, absolutely.
And you were not really sitting in a space of open-mindedness.
No. Why would I sit in a space of open-mindedness in that situation? No. I was like, I'm right, you're wrong. Full
That
stop.
is that's so interesting, truly. To like when we get to that point where we're like, I am correct.
Yeah.
And it's just like the mind closes. I tell my teenagers that my job as a mom is to open up their brain. I tell them, I'm like, your brain kind of folds in on itself when you become a teenager. And it's just so, and this is developmentally true. This does happen to them. Their brain doesn't fold in on itself, but their world gets really small and it just
Mhm.
becomes so revolved around them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's my job as a mom to like expand your world, to
Yeah.
look outside of yourself and to realize too that that's a skill that has to be worked on your whole life.
Yeah.
Like it's not just as teenagers, it's any time in life. If we're struggling with something, if there's intensity going on in another part of our lives, our worlds get smaller because we can only handle so much. Or if it just doesn't align with our values either, we can
Yeah.
just be like, nope, I'm not going there because that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. I honestly, I believe that that was part of my issue. That viewpoint does not align with my values.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's lots of reasons why we may not be open-minded
Yeah.
about things. We're going to get started on the communication framework and I'm going to take Rose through it. And before we get clear on her, I think it's important too to consider like getting clear that this could be situational. Like
Oh,
we may
yeah.
be an open-minded person, but like maybe we're dealing with an illness or maybe we're dealing with a job loss or maybe we're just really tired. And
Yeah.
so the ability to remain open-minded can sometimes lessen depending on what's going on in life.
Very
So,
true.
okay, this situation, you're in a conflict, having a disagreement on
Hmm.
best practices
Hmm.
at work.
Hmm.
And you need to, step one, clarify your goal. Get really clear on the person you want to be at work, what you want to accomplish from this. Like, to me, this is interesting because you could get clear on a lot of different things or just kind of one thing
Yeah.
in this scenario.
I don't know. I'm still feeling like very strongly about that, but I don't know that
Is this a recent
no,
situation that
this
happened
isn't recent, but it's an ongoing conversation that
within
just,
your field?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of research on one or more, both sides, um,
Yeah.
for and against. And so, yeah, it's an ongoing kind of discussion. And well, I'll share more about like what actually happens later on. But I think if I were to pinpoint a goal, obviously I realized that like continuing to argue wasn't going to be helpful, right? And I
Right.
could see that very, very clearly, right? And so the what I needed to do, what we needed to focus on was actually helping this specific client, right? So
Mm,
that was like part of the goal. I think the individual goal for me was to be able to kind of understand their perspective so that we could uh, we could come up with a solution that would be best for this client. So I guess the change that I wanted to see in that situation was to be able to I don't know, to just approach them from a different perspective so that we can help our client, right? Because at the end of the day, that's really who's important.
right. So
Yeah.
you wanted to get clear on helping this client. So your client's well-being is truly like the number one thing.
Yeah,
But
it
then you
wasn't even
also,
my client. It wasn't even my client. I'm just like
oh,
people in general. I'm like clients in general. Like this should be,
clients in general.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a very specific client, but not mine. Yeah.
Okay, so you wanted to get clear to support this client and then understanding other people's perspectives was also important to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This made me think about a previous episode where we talk about like people we disagree with
Mm-hmm.
and the power of respect. And
Mm-hmm.
so I hear you say understand perspective, but I also hear in that being able to respect somebody else's point of view.
Yeah. And understand.
Yeah,
Clearly, I'm not understanding something because
right.
we arguing. So I'm not understanding. So what do I need to understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in gaining clarity when we're trying to stay open-minded, some things that you could maybe focus on. I'm talking about in general here. This is just teaching moment. You could think about like, I want to engage in disagreements in a way that's calm, curious, and constructive rather than reactive. And like, just note that that's very different than like, I want people to know what I think
Oh
and I
yeah.
want them to do what I say.
Nobody's gonna do what I want them to do. They are gonna know what I think, but they're not gonna do what I want them to do.
And so, really staying grounded and listening and understanding, even when you don't agree, sounds like was the clear, like you got really clear on you wanted to be there to help the client and
Yes.
gain understanding of that other person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so quickly, this is going to be
Yeah.
a quick fire. What did you do or didn't do? What action did you take or not take that worked against this goal?
Rolling my eyes.
Okay.
Definitely not going to draw somebody in. Uh,
Okay.
I was pretty rigid in expressing my opinions, like, right? I didn't leave any space for disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what else did I do? I think I did try to ask questions, but I don't think I was really listening. I didn't care.
Yeah.
Like I was asking questions, but I didn't care to know the answers, right? To really or
Interesting.
even engage in those answers. I'm telling you, this was a situation where I was like, I'm right.
Hmm. So I'm curious, why did you still ask questions then?
Because that's what we do as
Hmm.
therapists.
That was just more like,
No, but that's a real answer.
yeah,
No, I'm
yeah,
not joking. Like that is what we do. So that's just a we just do that, right?
yeah.
Even if we're not like in that
Engaged.
situation, yeah, for sure. It's like a habit.
Okay.
So,
So you were rolling your eyes, you were very rigid, you weren't leaving any space for to even hear or receive a response from others. You
no,
asked questions, but you were not at all engaged in actual curiosity.
no. Well, yeah. No,
That's
yeah.
okay. We've all
No, I'm just trying to think like I was like curious, but it was also like that's dumb.
So it was kind of curious that validated your point.
Yes. 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 You could say
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I'm putting myself out there right now.
You totally are putting yourself
I
out
don't
there. Good
usually say it
job.
like this, but I'm not I'm gonna be real. These are all thoughts that go through my head sometimes. I'm like, you're stupid. This is stupid. Why are we doing this? This whole situation is stupid. That's literally what goes in my head. And that's not helpful either, right?
Right. Right. So the third step is what are our hidden commitments? So when we look at our clarity, our goal, you wanted to help this client and you wanted to understand other people's perspectives. That's like executive function, super clear mind. You want to be open-minded when you totally disagree.
Hmm.
Then you took a look at your actions and behaviors that were working against you. So
Yeah.
that then reveals your hidden commitment. So, what are you unconsciously protecting, or what is actually truly more important to you in this situation?
100% in this situation, I was committed to being right.
Tell me more about that.
I'm trying to think of how to put this into words. In this situation, I have to be very
Right.
specific about the situation. In this situation, I was very much committed to being the right one. Maybe like committed to like everybody agreeing with me that I was the right one in this situation.
Okay. You're still thinking.
I am. I'm trying to think if there's any other way to phrase I was committed to being right, but maybe that's not. I think I just wanted to, I am committed to being right.
I think this is beautiful that you can see this and recognize this in this situation.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I can tell all of you that are listening, Rosemary is not always committed to being right. Her and I have had many conversations where we are not agreeing and we're very much able to figure it out. And
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
definitely not
It
a
doesn't look like this
correct. It doesn't look like this.
at all.
So this is actually very interesting to me because I don't see this Rosemary that you're talking about. I don't know if I've ever seen this part of you. So
Well, and
this,
I should say that this is like a very internal process, right? I am not, I recognize like as I'm saying this, I probably sound very assertive. And I can be assertive, but this is very much internal, right? My process, the way that I operate is very internal. So this is all
Mhm.
going on inside, which could explain, I don't know, stress, chronic stress. I don't know.
I mean, that's a whole nother discussion,
It
right? Of
is. It is.
like this internal. So, uh, as a friend who's an external processor, sometimes it's hard for me because, Rhodes, you are an internal processor. And there are times when I'm like, I want to know what is going on in her head. And I want to know, like, where we've had a conversation where I'm like, I don't think we're on the same page. And I want to, like, know all the thoughts.
Oh,
But I've
there's a
learned to really respect that you're not, I mean, that you process internally. I have kids that are internal processors. I have a spouse that's an internal processor. And it has just knowing that people process differently has been very helpful for me. So that's a little side note. Okay.
okay.
Do you have anything you want to add to internal and external processing?
Not right now. That is
Okay.
another episode. So
That is an important, like,
yeah, yeah,
that's an important skill.
yeah,
Okay. So we're staying open-minded. The
yeah,
goal is to stay open-minded when you totally disagree and really focus in on helping this client and
yeah,
understanding others' perspectives.
yeah,
Doing and not doing, eye rolling, rigid, not listening to answers truly that are happening.
yeah.
Then when your hidden commitment that you're identifying is being committed to being correct.
Yes.
So now the next step is identifying the big assumptions. So under these hidden commitments are the assumptions that drive them. So what is it that you are assuming these other individuals that is driving this need to be right?
Um, there's a lot. I just went through like a list in my mind and I was trying to figure out where this list was coming from. A couple of things. I think the drive, oh, the assumption was that this person was going to be wrong and do harm, and I
Mm.
was very worried about that. Very, very worried about that. And not a fair assumption at all, but that's kind of how my brain works. Well, if you're not doing this thing that I think is right, you're going to do harm. And there are situations where that can cause harm, right? Probably not this one. But yeah, I'm just thinking sorry, I'm thinking about like where that's coming from. And one of my values is fairness. My values are fairness, justice, right? And also I'm a firstborn child and a caretaker in a weird way. Like
Mhm.
I very much take care of I very much take I don't want to say take responsibility for people, but I feel like I care about people deeply.
Mhm.
Especially in this job, I feel very that the position that we are in as therapists is such a unique position that we really ought to take care in how we treat other people. And so in my mind, I'm like, if you're doing this wrong, you're going to hurt some people,
Mhm.
right? I am honestly assuming that she's going to do harm and that I'm going to be partially responsible for it because I'm sitting in this meeting and I'm not saying enough, or I'm not doing enough.
Right. Can I offer a different wording for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
You said if you are doing this wrong, then you are going to do harm.
Yeah.
So, using your words from earlier, if I'm not viewed as correct, then harm will be done.
You could say that. Yeah. 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 You could say that.
Because With the if you are doing it, if you're doing this wrong, that's the powers on them.
Right.
The responsibilities on them. But in
If
this
I let
scenario,
you do this wrong feels a little bit more correct
if
for me.
I let you do this wrong,
Yeah.
and so, but
It,
then that I'm going to push you a little bit here
yeah.
in back to being, because you said that you were committed to being right.
Yeah, this is where it gets really gray for me. I almost said something. I'm not gonna say it. Um, I, yeah, I guess you could say that. That'll work. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Even right now, I'm like processing in my mind. I'm like going deeper and I'm like, what's under that? What's under that? What's under that? What's
Right.
under that? That's what's going on in my mind right now. That's the pause that you're hearing is me trying to
So
figure out
what is
what's
under
underneath
that?
all that. Um, it's not going to come out in a big assumption, but it really is just like I just care
Hmm.
about people. It's like a
So,
blessing and a curse because I want to be right so I can take care of them. And if I'm wrong, then I'm not taking care of them.
oh, so the commitment to being right is truly rooted in protection of others.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
typically in this situation. Yeah,
like I can feel that. Like that is very deeply true for you.
yeah.
Like,
I'm telling you, it's a blessing and a curse.
yeah. Okay, so if you're not viewed as correct, then harm will be done to
Yeah,
other people.
yeah.
So, moving on to step 5, this is where you start to experiment. And you're experimenting on staying open-minded when you totally disagree. Like this is a deep disagreement of
This is
like,
like the core of like the foundation of my soul.
right.
Agreement. Yes.
This isn't just like, oh, I like the Yankees and you like the Red Sox. Like
Right.
this
Right.
is like
Yeah.
fundamentally how we treat people.
Uh-huh.
So then how do you even approach an experiment? Did you do an experiment? I have some experiments that we can suggest, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious if you've experimented with this and want to share some of those things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we weren't going to agree on
Right?
that. And I knew we weren't going to agree on that. And my experiment was very, again, it was internal because I am internal. It was, I need to be okay with, I decided to just trust my colleague that they were going to
Mhm.
do whatever was best for their client. And I literally just decided to trust them. And that was my experiment. And I think that that's what I didn't want to do because I was like, I don't trust you to do the right thing.
Right.
Right. And I had to change, I just had to change my mindset and say, like, you're a practitioner. You, I don't know. Yes, we're here to offer advice. And I have to have faith that you're going to do what's right for your client. And that doesn't have to be my right.
So, what was in reflecting on this? What was the data that, like, what was your result from that experiment?
A couple things actually. One, that was like a relief
Mm,
to like release that weight, of being so concerned that someone was going to be harmed. So I think like it lifted that burden or that I don't even want to say it was a burden because it wasn't a burden, but it just that those feelings were so heavy, it lifted that. So that was one. And two, I mean, she did harm her client. Could there have been another way of going about that? Of course, right? And that's what's so hard about therapy is I will tell you as clinicians when we sit down and we meet in a room, someone brings in a case and every single person has a different direction that they could
Mm,
take it in, right? And even when you're in therapy, you can your mind is thinking, okay, which direction do we want to go into? There's so
right.
much information here, right? And so it didn't have to be my right. Like, and she used her right, and client was fine. It turned out fine.
That answer of it turned out fine, I hear over and over and over again when I run people through the six step
Yeah,
system.
yeah.
When you experiment, you have these rigid, not always rigid, but these deep feelings, or these, we have these things that we just are so clear on, and then we recognize our competing commitments, and then we experiment on these things once we realize our assumptions and what's really holding us back, and then we start to experiment on them. And these little experiments that we do, most of the time, it's
They turned out fine.
they turn out fine.
Yeah.
So let's just talk. Going to give a few examples of ways that you can experiment when you are in a conversation that you need to remain open-minded, and it could be just like ripping your core apart, but
Hmm.
you need to remain open-minded. And this can happen at work. This can happen at home. This can happen honestly in a lot of places.
Yeah.
One thing you can do is regulate your body before reacting. We talk about this a lot as a
Yeah.
response to handling a lot of different situations. Take time, take a breath, push your feet into the ground. Sometimes
Hmm.
even like grab your drink, like maybe your cup is cold or hot, and just having that temperature change it can help regulate your body.
Yeah.
Okay. So take a pause before you choose to respond. Another thing that you can do is move to a place of curiosity instead of thinking they're wrong or
Like
that's
I did.
stupid.
Yep.
How could they think that? When you
Mm.
start training yourself when you hear that's stupid. Okay, I've moved into this place where I am not curious anymore. That's interesting. Can you tell me more? What led you to that perspective?
And then listen
Curious.
for real. I did
What
not
was
listen.
that?
I said, listen for real. When they give you an answer, really listen. Don't do what I did.
Really listen and pause. Like pause after you hear what they say. Pause before you respond, because then you can know you're actually listening.
Yeah.
And so then you can turn your disagreement into discovery instead of thinking about, oh, I disagree with this person. Truly, when you start moving into curiosity, that is one of the best ways to stay open-minded
That is
when
very,
you completely disagree.
very, very true.
And then we've talked about this before too, like separating the person from their position, and just think about the subject and not the person. I hear you feel strongly about this. I respect that, even though I see it differently. That type of language allows you to just isolate this situation instead of disregarding a whole entire person because they have a strong view that is different than you.
Well, and at the end of the day, this person wasn't trying to do harm to their client. That's why they brought this, situation into the team meeting anyway, right?
Right.
So if I had taken a second to really think about that, but I didn't, then I probably would have been able to separate them from their position.
Right.
Yeah.
So then step 6 is to reflect, observe, collect that data, and really like consider when I experimented, when I tried this out, when I tried to stay open-minded, what what actually happened. Most of the time it's going to be, oh, this turned out well. Or
Yeah.
oh, that felt really great to use executive function instead of fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think that even if you are having some issues with this executive dysfunctioning, right? Because sometimes, lack of sleep can do that, our emotional
Yeah.
states can do that. Um, if, we're experiencing other things that cause some, maybe pauses in our executive functioning, just practicing this, right? Practicing mindfulness, practicing getting grounded. If you can get grounded, you can open up those parts of your brain. And so, yeah, even if executive functioning is not your strong suit, pausing and just taking a second to step back can be really, really helpful. I recognize that I'm saying pausing as I'm speaking about executive functioning, and impulsivity is actually or inhibition is actually part of executive functioning. But the more we practice, the better we can get, right?
Yeah.
So just taking that into consideration as well.
So true. So this week, we want you to practice experimenting when things are getting intense. Notice your body. Number one, notice your body. Two, get curious. And three, make sure you separate that person from their behavior. Even small experiments help you test your assumptions, help you challenge your hidden commitments, and really it helps you grow in ways that you might not expect.
Final thought, open-mindedness isn't about giving up your truth, right? It's about holding space for more than one truth at a time. And just take the time to notice what happens as you practice these 3 steps. Please, please, please make sure you don't miss out on connecting with us. Make sure you subscribe. You can also visit us on Facebook at Develop Confidence and Relationship Through Effective Communication Skills, which, we'll post in the show notes because who's going to remember that? Our Instagram, you can send us a message, send us I don't know, like something at Communication Skills for Women. You can email us if you have questions, or maybe you have a thought for a topic or something that you might be experiencing, and you're like, I would really like to know, like, how can we walk through this framework based off of this experience? Or you can check out our website at communicateconnectthrive.com. Until next time, speak clearly and listen bravely. When you feel confident in your communication, everything changes.
We'd love to hear your wins, failures, and insights on Instagram at Communication Skills for Women. Leave a review and connect with us.
Until next time, speak clearly and listen bravely.